Okay, so I want to talk about a collecting trope, or a collecting trait, if you will. A trait that maybe some of us recognise, and that is the completist. Yes, let's dive into this one. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and this here video. And yeah, the pitfalls of collecting, the I don't know, this is kind of an addendum to my addiction video that I'd done a little short while ago, and I want to talk about the completist collecting, and how that affects me, and again how what am I going to do moving forward. So what brought me to this video in the first place? I'll tell you what it was. It was seeing that we are getting releases of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor, the 4K steelbooks, and then Moon Knight and Falcon and Winter Soldier as well from Marvel. Fantastic that they're getting a release. Not so fantastic that they're just steelbook editions. Over here, generally just a 4K Blu-ray steelbook, which I've spoke about that before. About that's an abhorrent kind of release practice, that there's no DVD, no Blu-ray, standard Blu-ray release, so you're trapped into buying a steelbook. Just awful, 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 awful. But that's not the chat about this. This is about the completist in us all. Now, I love this term. Are you a slave to collecting? I like that term, and that's a term that is going to stay with me. It's a term that's going to stick, because no one wants to be a slave. The sort of connotations attached to the word slave are just awful. No one wants to be a slave to anything, but obviously that's what addiction is, being a slave to something. And in that, you could be a slave to being a completist in something. Now, you know, okay, if I step back to my comic book collecting days, yes, I have every Punisher comic from conception to date. Every single Punisher comic. It's the only comic book series that I have a complete run of, in that sense, like, for that amount of time. I don't read Spider-Man. I've jumped in and out of Spider-Man, in and out of Superman, in and out of Batman, etc., etc., based upon who's writing, who's drawing, things like that. The only one character that I've stuck with all the way through is the Punisher. So I'm a slave to Punisher comics. I most definitely am. And I don't see that stopping. But I don't see that as being an issue, because I'm not a slave to every comic book that I pick up. I can jump off, I can jump back on. A lot easier now than what I used to do way back when I was in my younger days of collecting comic books. But physical media and being a slave to being a completist or a completionist, whatever term you want to use. Now, I'm thinking more along the lines of the Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Star Trek. That's generally where my thoughts lie. That's where I need to get everything. And out of all of those, obviously the Marvel stuff is the biggest. Marvel is the biggest, in that, being that I come from a background of collecting comics for as long as I have, and physical media way back then as well, up to now. But comics, was one of my primary interests. It stands to reason that the comic book genre of film is of a huge interest to me, and I do generally I have picked up almost every single comic book related movie that has ever been made. So I am a slave to that, slave to it. But more recently, that's changed. That has changed, and it was even before the video I'd done the other day. The Marvels. The second Captain Marvel movie. I'm happy to say that as of at this time of filming, even still, I've not picked it up. Now, you had the steelbook. Now, I've got a steelbook for every other Marvel movie, the MCU movie. Steelbook for every one, but not that one. No, I was put off primarily by the design. It was god awful. It was crap. Secondly, I was put off by the film. And the Marvels is a crap film. Marvel Entertainment, the MCU, are knocking out dross now. And they have been for some considerable time. You know, and then I saw the releases of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor. Obviously, I got The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 on Steelbook. And then came these other two. And right away I'm thinking, yes, you know, yes. And then I'm thinking, hold on a minute. Are you stupid in your head? Am I stupid? The answer is yes. Right? Because, okay, I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm not, you know, I know people had issues with it. I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will, hands up, I will get Obi-Wan Kenobi. I didn't, however, enjoy Andor. So I can safely say here and now that I am not getting Andor as a release. I don't want it, okay? I've got a bootleg of it. I know I've always said, oh, if they release an original one, I will get that. Okay, sod that. Throw that out of the window. Let's look after what's going on up here, right? And not being a slave to this crap. Okay, I got the bootleg. I was a slave to it back then, but that's changed now. I'm not gonna watch Andor again. Andor was awful, right? It was boring. It was rubbish. It was overly long. Yeah, my opinion. You may have loved it. Good luck to you if you did. I didn't. So I will get Obi-Wan Kenobi, most definitely. I won't get Andor. And now I'm talking about Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight was a very overrated show. A lot of people harping on about how good it was, and it wasn't that great. It wasn't a very good Marvel show at all. Falcon and Winter Soldier I enjoyed. So again, there. I may get one and not the other. So, you know, I'm not generally... I've been a slave to some forms of collecting, not to others as a completist. Now, when you get the completists, okay, let's talk about Titans of Cult. You know, I got a lot of Titans of Cult releases as they came along. Ones that I probably didn't even need to get or should have really got. There was a couple I didn't get. I didn't get Scott Pilgrim. I'm not a fan of the film. And I didn't get the 2009 Star Trek movie that they'd done, because I had a couple of other releases of it anyway, and it weren't a particularly good design. So I don't feel that I became a slave to Titans of Cult. To a degree I was. To another degree I wasn't. I didn't get them all. I'm happy to say that. But there are a few that I did pick up that I could have questioned and said, you shouldn't have picked that one up. Do you know what I mean? But there we go. I wasn't a slave to that. Film Vault. Not HMV, you know, the Film Vault range, the nice big chunky boxes. We've had 2 waves, 8 in total. I only got 4. I only picked up 4. I'm looking at them now. Blade Runner 1917, Shawshank Redemption, and Jaws. I didn't need the other 4. So again, I'm not caught up in this being a slave to that, this addiction. Thankfully I wasn't. And then obviously another thing that people get caught up in is the numbering on releases. You know, like the HMV Premier Collection, is it called? The ones with the numbers on the, you know, and you get they're nice releases. I can't knock that. I'm not going to deny that. But I would never, ever, ever get caught up in collecting because of a number on the side of the box. That in itself is just a stupid way of collecting in my mind, in my opinion, because I'm buying, inevitably I am buying for a number, right? I don't care what the film is. I can't have a gap between numbers 8 and 10. I've got to fill it. I've got to have number 9 sat there. Don't care what it is. Don't care what film it is. I've got to have number 9 there. I can't have a number missing. That to me is you know, being a slave to being a completist, in my opinion. Yeah, if you have to pick up every title released by a studio, or every title released of a specific collection, Marvel. Yeah, so that's something that I intend on. Well, I say intend on breaking. I don't perceive myself to be too bad in regards to that. I seriously don't. But you know, where those little pocket areas are that I would say, yes, I was a completist. Star Wars, Marvel. I think now I'm looking at it and thinking, I don't need to be. You don't need to complete these series just because for the hell of it. Because a lot of it now is dross anyway that's being made and kicked out. The best is behind us. You've got the best. Everything else is just second to those. Seriously, they are. So, yeah, for me, I think completing or completist collecting is definitely in all areas probably going to be a thing of the past. Even the Punisher comic, I don't know how that will go because Frank Castle is now no longer the Punisher. You've got a new fella because Disney, Marvel don't see the Punisher as being a viable character. However, I do expect to see a return of him in comics when we see the return of John Bernthal in Daredevil Born Again. That's the way the comics work. But yeah, a slave to collections. I've been there, I've done it, and I'm stepping away from those little pocket areas that make me that slave. And I think I'm going to feel good for it as well. I think so. Anyway, are you a slave to being a completist? Are you a completist in any way, shape or form? Any type of series, any type of, you know, large series, any range of releases? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on being a completist or something, and whether, you know, you do see titles there within, if you're like Film Vault, if you're like Titans of Cult, that sort of a thing. Let me know. I will say, back on Titans of Cult, something I should have said earlier, is the new Gladiator release. I didn't get that. I found the fact that they changed the format fantastic, because it's a good jumping off point for that. It truly is. So I was quite happy with that. But yeah, so let me know in the comments down below your thoughts, and talk again soon. The pitfalls of collecting. Those little traps that we kind of fall into. Take care all, and goodbye.